Tonight on the Black Channel, the full court presses on to erase the presence of black people, and the media is leading the charge. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, I've been lining a few of these things up here, so I want to go ahead and talk about this tonight. So you're being forewarned in advance that this is going to be a bit of a deep dive, and I wanted to deal with these things because it's important for us to do so. Watch the language that is thrown at us. Watch the language that is thrown at us. Watch the subtle maneuvering that's thrown at us. Watch as these things go on and on. Watch as it happens, because I want you to be aware of that. I want you to be aware of the tactics that they will use for that. I want you to be aware of the tactics they'll use. There was a news piece that was put up here by PBS. Just so you see there, it says Tulsa faces reckoning over historical racism as state law restricts how history is taught. Folks, you got to understand something. You got to understand something. You got to understand that these folks know what they're doing and that we have won. You got to understand that they recognize that they have lost over the last 20 years. They have lost. And they're letting you know that they know they've lost. They have lost because we didn't stop doing what we do. We didn't stop spreading the word. We didn't stop talking to each other. We didn't stop popularizing it. Some of the folks that you might laugh at otherwise, and those people, even some of them, the Hotep community and everything else, the word has gotten around. We have been stalwart about our history. We have been stalwart about it. So now, in state to state, legislature to legislature, they are attempting to weaponize their legislatures to erase our history, which means that they are relying on complacency. They're letting you know the word has gotten too damn far around. You see, the schools didn't teach reparations. The schools did not teach reparations. There was no classroom you've ever been in where the teachers gave you a lesson on the need for reparations. There's no classroom you've been in that the teachers gave you a lesson on the need for restorative justice. And yet it is front and center. This is the culmination of decades of work. And one of the key ones has been the Black Wall Street. Back in the 90s, there was a resurgence of blackness as rap music coming out of the 80s was serving the needs of black people. It was the music of resistance. It was the music of revolutionaries. And everywhere you turned, it was the music of the revolution. And that wasn't just a 1 day, 1 month, 1 year thing. This was a campaign. And it swept the nation, swept the world, and took over everything. That's why the corporations had to come in and dumb it down, or at least attempt to. But in the internet age, even that is no longer working. It was already out of the gate. It was already out of the gate. It's too late to put it back in the barn now. It's already streaming down the track. So you got to deal with this out here now. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So they're saying, okay, if we can't put the genie back in the bottle, let's see if we can kill him. Let's see if we can at least slow him down. So when you talk about the Black Wall Street, particularly the one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as you all know here, we expanded people's knowledge to let them know there were many around the country. But when you talk about particularly Tulsa, Oklahoma, then you have to get into what happened to it. The first bombing of an American city by American government. That was the first one. The second one was against black folk in Philadelphia. Move. So every time America takes revolutionary, radical action, it's always against black people. Every time that posse comitatus is violated, every time that they take some criminal action that clearly violates the Constitution, it's always against black folk. Always. So what I want to do here is I want to play this piece for you now. Granted, it's 14 minutes long, but there's a lot to learn here. There's a lot to unpack. I want you to pay attention to this. We're going to do some stops in here, but there's something I want you to learn from this. There's a lot to learn.
For the past few years, as the country's been reckoning with questions of race, justice, and equality.
Race, justice, and equality. Ma'am, I think you mean reparations. I think the word you're looking for and just waltzed right over was reparations. She said every word except reparations. Don't worry, it's coming.
Over the past few years, as the country's been reckoning with questions of race, justice, and equality, many state legislatures have passed laws restricting how American history, particularly institutional racism and its legacy today, can be taught in public schools. Tonight, Judy Woodruff visits her native Tulsa, Oklahoma, to try to understand how that city, amid its own reckoning, is navigating this moment. It's her latest installment of America at a Crossroads.
This is where the Dreamland Theater was located. And my great aunt Janie, when she was 17 years old, she went on a date. Who would have known that during this date, the massacre happened?
This is the reason they gotta try to make laws against us now. Because folks have been passing the stories down and telling the stories. Everybody ain't been just sitting around watching World Star Hip Hop. This is why you gotta start passing laws. It's like, okay, we gotta start passing laws now. Cause y'all are getting too serious and you're doing too damn much. We gotta start passing laws. They're letting you know how serious black folk talking to each other. They made it illegal when we were slaves. Don't get together talking to each other by yourselves. Now we're able to talk to each other by ourselves in groups of thousands and tens of thousands. They're like, hey, we gotta make some laws now. Because you're talking too much to each other.
Community activist Christy Williams is a descendant of Janie Edwards, who was just a teenager in Tulsa more than 100 years ago when she snuck out one Saturday night for a date and found herself fleeing for her life.
She remembered that there were gunshots flying everywhere, there was fire everywhere, and she said they dropped bombs. And you could smell the fire and the smoke from miles and miles away.
The day before, a young black man working as a shoe shiner was arrested for allegedly assaulting a white woman on an elevator. A confrontation at the courthouse followed, and on the morning of June 1st, 1921, a mob of white men chased a group of black men into Greenwood, a 35-block district of black-owned businesses and homes known as Black Wall Street, killing an untold number of residents and burning their community to the ground. Yet the stories of what happened in Tulsa that weekend were for a long time buried in fear, intimidation, and shame.
They didn't want to repeat it because they always feared that if they talked about it around the people who did it, who were looting the homes and burning the homes and killing people, so you didn't want that to happen again. So you kept quiet about it.
And this reminds you of so much of what you hear in South Africa today. In South Africa today, you are encouraged to have truth and reconciliation, allegedly, but not restorative justice. So they're telling you you need to live next door to the white supremacists who executed these war crimes, but that you're to be quiet about it. So you're sitting there in plain sight. So what they've done is created a white supremacist police state where you are telling your children a code of omerta. Don't speak about what these folks have done. Recognize this is a pattern of behavior. And oh yes, once again, they claim that the cause of it was somebody has violated one of our nasty ass raggedy white women.
For decades, other stories about Tulsa have been told, a place once known as the oil capital of the world, but more recently home to new residents drawn by an affordable cost of living and a transforming downtown, rich in music, history, and culture.
This land is your land. Black folk built the music of this land. Black folk did that. This is our accomplishment. The descendants of the slaves did this. This is what we built. This is what we built. This is what we did. So when I tell you about erasing our presence, I want you to just understand that anytime that you see American historical music with somebody holding a guitar in their hands, it is a black person who built that and did this. But if you let them tell the tale, they're going to remove you, replace it with a white face, and tell you that's who did it. That's why it's important for us to speak to each other, because understand, white folk ain't saying that black folk created rock and roll anymore. Do y'all realize that? White folk are not telling you that black people created rock and roll anymore. They're not saying that anymore. They don't tell you that black folk created the blues, black folk created jazz. 25 years ago, they didn't have such of a problem saying that. Now they do. Now, everywhere you go, they talk about American music, but they no longer wish to mention the people who created it. Because then you start saying, well, hell, how is it black folk made it and now they've been divorced from it? How the hell can that be? So just understand, this is a conscious effort that as they lose ground and lose control, then they start rewriting the history. Now they're erasing it in real time.
Including Greenwood. In fact, my own story began here. I was born and spent the early years of my life in this, the second largest city in Oklahoma. I only lived in Tulsa for 5 years, but I came back often to visit family, especially my grandmother, who lived in this house in North Tulsa. I never remember hearing anything about Greenwood until news reports began to circulate a few years ago.
Now, she talking about a few years ago. It's 2023. We've been talking about Greenwood, Archer, and Pine for decades, so that lets you know how deeply ingrained the code of omerta is. Just like with Skip Gates, who talked to the white man whose family owned the plantation, and his father told him, we don't talk about the slaves. He asked his dad, what about the slaves? And his dad told him, we don't talk about the slaves. So just recognize that their thing is it's okay to erase history now. Usually if they tell you we need to remember history, now they're saying it's okay to erase it. Now it's all right to erase it. They don't even want their own children to know what happened. It's all right to completely erase history now.
We're sitting right sort of at the epicenter of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, arguably the worst incident of urban racial violence in American history. And it was not discussed openly for nearly 75, 80 years. So this...
Now let me explain to you, let me put that in its proper context for all of you. Jewish people didn't have to wait 75 years before the atrocities of the Jewish Holocaust in Europe were mentioned, discussed, and addressed. They got taken care of in real time as they went. They were immediately seen to. Japanese people didn't have to wait 75 years before what happened to them in the internment camps in America was addressed, was mentioned, was discussed, was talked about. They didn't have to wait damn near 100 years. It was mentioned, talked about, and addressed at that time as they went. The other thing here is when you say it was an act of racial violence, well, you're absolutely correct about that. It was also an act of socioeconomic violence as well. So you haven't addressed any of these things, but that is deliberately so. Don't worry, we're going to get to reparations. Hats off here to PBS NewsHour about this, but they're going to get to reparations here too. And Mayor Bynum, just remember him.
Of urban racial violence in American history, and it was not discussed openly for nearly 75, 80 years. So this represents the evolution of Tulsa's really racial history.
Tulsa's mayor, G.T. Bynum, comes from a long line of Tulsans, as well as former city mayors on both sides of his family.
And the goal, of course, at the very top is reconciliation.
Let me tell you all, this is offensive. I'm going to try to keep my blood pressure down. This is offensive. This is brainwashing. Do not let yourselves or your children fall for this propagandistic garbage they're doing right here. You see, as they keep easing this in, let me show you, this is anathema to itself. First you say murder, arson, looting, Greenwood, but then you say, and at the very top, the goal is supposed to be...
The goal, of course, at the very top is... And the goal, of course, at the very top is reconciliation.
Everybody keeps talking about that. Here's the issue. Drill this through your cinder block, Oakwood thick head. When they talk about Jewish people, did you notice that Jewish people were never told that their goal, the goal, should be reconciliation with the Germans? That the goal should be reconciliation with Italy? That the goal should be reconciliation with Russia? You notice they're never told that. No one ever tells these other groups. The Japanese were not told that their goal needs to be reconciliation with the white government. They were never told that. Native Americans, the red ones, were never told, so-called red ones, were never told that their goal is supposed to be reconciliation. The only place that you see this word invoked, the only place you see this word brought up is black people, particularly foundationals. We're the only ones that this word comes up with. The only ones. Then you go over to Africa. Once again, the only place you see this word brought up is when white folk owe black people something. Then all of a sudden it's about integration and reconciliation. That we need to come to, well, we need to get to a point where we're friendly with y'all. You know, Jewish people have never been told they need to be friendly with anybody. Jewish people have never been told that their goal is to be friends, buddies, lifelong pals, or to get along with anybody. That's why they focus on their economics so hard, because they know they can't depend on these Anglos. So their goal isn't reconciliation. It's empowerment, not reconciliation. We're told that our goal is to figure out how to shake hands with everybody. And this microphone told you over a decade ago, damn that. We don't need to be friends with anyone. Our goal shouldn't be to be friends with people. Certainly not with people who have brutalized us, murdered us, killed us with impunity. Our goal isn't to be, quote, friends with them. We don't need to be friends with you. I'm sounding like Dr. Khalid Muhammad now. We don't need to be friends with you. There's nothing there to be friends with. And being friends with you is not compensation for what you did. We need to reconcile. We can't reconcile a damn thing until you have served reparations. We can't reconcile a damn thing. They're telling you that we need to figure out how to reconcile without it costing them anything. That's what they mean by reconciliation. You all need to figure out how to let this go and get right with what happened without it costing us, the perpetrators, anything. So we need to reconcile. When you let them know, I didn't come here to shake your damn hand and be your buddy. I didn't come to go on a date with your daughter. I came here to get what you owe, every penny of it. When you say that, you can take the damn reconciliation sign down. I ain't for it. I didn't come for that. People, we understand something. I said this before about black folk. Let me say this about the greater dominant society here. When folks tell you we need to have unity, to hell with unity. If unity means you get let off scot-free for what you did, to hell with unity. You can go to hell with reconciliation if that means letting you off the hook for what you did. I don't give a damn if it takes 7 years, 7 decades, 7 lifetimes. You owe, and we gonna stay on your back until it's paid, and the longer you drag this out, the more interest will be on top of it. But as far as being your buddy, your pal, any of that garbage, hell no, it can jump off at any second. On account of the fact you owe, it can jump off at any moment. It really can. Damn reconciliation. Reconciliation is not a goal. Don't let some damn screwjob ass Poindexter mayor sit up here and tell you that our goal should be reconciliation. Our goal is reparations, not reconciliation. We don't give a damn about reconciling with you. We are perfectly cool if you giving us the evil eye every damn day. You doing it now. Our goal isn't to be good with you or friendly with you. Our goal isn't reconciliation. Our goal is empowerment, because you could be reconciled with us one day and then you go back to having animosity the next. But if we are empowered, it doesn't matter whether you feel conciliatory one day or whether you feel hostile the next. You won't be able to harm us on any day. When we're empowered, it doesn't matter if you feel conciliatory towards us or whether you feel friendly towards us or not. When we're empowered, that becomes irrelevant. Here's the problem. We can reconcile with you with our condition never having been changed. You sat up here and knocked us on the bottom. You've got us oppressed. We can reconcile with you and still remain oppressed. What we cannot do is become empowered and still remain oppressed. So which is more important to you all? Being reconciled to them or being empowered? If you say it's more important to be empowered, give me the black fist in the chat room and hit the likes button. There's over 3,000 people in here watching live. If you think it's more important to have empowerment than reconciliation, give me the black fist in the chat room and hit the likes button. Unless I got a bunch of folks in here, Jason, you wrong. We really need to reconcile over here. You gotta soften them up, Jason. You can't just come by to the front door now. You gotta soften them up. Can't do too much too soon.
Reconciliation for us as a community.
In 2021, he apologized for the city's failure to protect Black Tulsans 100 years earlier and from decades of discrimination after.
So for all the folks out there who say we need to get an apology, okay, well, he's giving an apology here, but okay, what you gonna do about it? You have acknowledged that there's been a wrong that's been done to black folk that has plagued them ever since. What are you gonna do? Well, we can have reconciliation. Damn your reconciliation. I'm trying to warn y'all. Don't let these folks sit up here and fool you with that. Don't let them do the rug pull on you with that. He's giving you an apology and then saying, but we're here to maintain the status quo. We'll put up a damn monument at the top of his reconciliation, which means maintain the status quo. Hey, we know we blew up your side of town and left you all impoverished for generational poverty, but can we settle this over a handshake? Okay, we took millions and millions from you here. We murdered your loved ones. Can we just settle this over a handshake? Don't you want to be our friend and our pal? Hell no. I can think of something else these hands are good for. And you can get them all day.
Earlier, and from decades of discrimination after.
I think the greatest change I've seen in my lifetime, and especially just in the last 5 to 7 years, is the openness with which racial disparities are discussed in our city. And we've tried to, over the last, I'd say, 20 years as a community, start having those conversations around race in our city that should have been happening for a century, but we've tried to compact all of that into the last 20 years and really in earnest into the last decade.
Now, do you hear that? Well, I think the really good part here is that we're having conversations about race. We're having discussions, and really the big change I've seen is we're actually discussing the racial disparities. Okay, but once again, y'all, what is he saying he's gonna do? So I warned you all over a decade ago, the dominant society has no problem acknowledging racism, discussing racism, talking about racism, building monuments about racism. Oh, we need to discuss racism. We need to heal our hearts. Racism. They have no problem discussing racism. Getting them to acknowledge racism is no big achievement. What are they gonna do about it? Now, when you get to that part, that's when the conversation gets real light. That's when the conversation gets real quiet. When you say, okay, damn the talking. Now that we all agree about what has occurred, what are you going to do about this racial disparity? Then the room gets real quiet. So don't sit up here and tell yourself that you got to get them to acknowledge racism. They already know it's there. They already acknowledge it anytime you want to. They will acknowledge it so long as you don't require them to actually do something about their racism.
Conversations around race in our city that should have been happening for a century, but we've tried to compact all of that into the last 20 years and really in earnest into the last decade.
Historians estimate that 300 people may have been killed in the massacre. In 2018, Mayor Bynum announced an effort to find out more using ground-penetrating radar, coring, and excavation to explore 4 sites where victims of the massacre may have been buried. Just recently, a team announced that they had sequenced DNA from 6 sets of human remains exhumed from Oaklawn Cemetery and are now seeking the public's help in identifying them.
Now, you understand that we have the same problem, for example, in Wilmington. We have the same problem in Wilmington, and I've already covered that piece before, where the librarians and whatnot don't want to give folk records on anything. People, if you don't think that what happened at the Black Wall Street is so important, why are there so many people who fight you over it? If what happened in Wilmington is not so important, then why is it that the white folks in Wilmington are still covering it up to this day? If it's not really that important, and if it really doesn't matter, why are they fighting so hard to conceal these things to this day?
It's an opportunity for us to make Tulsa the kind of city that I think this generation of Tulsans wants it to be. We want to be a city where when horrible things happen to people, we as a city rally around them and do our best to find out what happened and be there for their families and their descendants.
Quote, be there for their families and descendants. Be there. We don't need a damn hug. Do you now understand something? This slimeball mayor, he's using the words he's using deliberately, which is why I've warned you all about year after year. He's using the words and terms and phrases he's using. He's using all of these words deliberately. Because the real question isn't what is he saying. The real question is listen to what he's not saying. So he keeps saying the same thing over and over again. We need to reconcile. We need to talk. We need to have discussions. We need to get to our feelings. You notice he's, amazingly enough, every time it's time to talk about concrete action, you haven't heard anything yet. And it isn't because Ms. Woodruff edited it out.
At the same time, there's a human challenge. There's a great lack of trust towards the city because the city didn't do enough.
I wonder why, and it's still not doing enough.
For so long.
The question that I have and the question that so many North Tulsans have is, what are you going to actually do about it? These are abandoned.
I'll be damned. The second you talk to a black person after he finishes, soon as he finished there, you heard that? So like I said, y'all, it's not because Miss Woodruff and her editing crew have kept it out. That's not the reason. By the way, as soon as that sister says something, did you hear the first thing she got to? She's right there with us. By the way, we couldn't help but notice you doing a whole bunch of jaw jacking. What are you gonna do? Well, we're gonna get together and discuss our feelings. We already know how we feel. We talking about where's the action?
For so long.
The question that I have and the question that so many North Tulsans have is, what are you going to actually do about it? These are abandoned homes, and you see this throughout my district.
City Councilor Vanessa Hall Harper, who represents Tulsa's 1st District in the north, recently gave me a tour of her district where many black Tulsans live today.
And so you have a lot of vacant houses and vacant lots.
Following the carnage of the massacre, many Greenwood buildings and businesses were rebuilt. But in the decades that followed, developers built a highway through the heart of Greenwood.
Okay, let's deal with that right quick. Developers don't build highways. Let's be very, very clear about that. Developers don't build highways and freeways. Developers can't afford to build highways and freeways. Those are called public works. Governments build that. The United States government pays for that kind of thing. The Highway Act pays for that. Omnibus Spending Acts pay for that. Quote, developers, it's not like somebody built a suburb or built a apartment building and then said, you know what, we need to build a freeway right through here too. So no, it's not developers. It's the government. The same government that blew it up and burned it down. And you notice what they did? They blew it up, burned it down, and then dropped a freeway on top of it to make sure you can't return. That's called socioeconomic warfare. They blew it up, murdered you by the dozens, cleared everybody out, dropped a freeway on top of it, and then said, now you can't return. Now we've got it. Now we're holding it. Now you cannot return. You can't name a single white neighborhood, white community that was ever treated like this. And we got stories like this in literally every city in America with a significant black presence. Doesn't matter what city you are in. Cleveland, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Biloxi, Little Rock. If there's a significant black presence, there's a freeway running through where you used to have a black community at. In this case, they dropped the bombs first. In other places, well, we'll just get there as we go. This has always been the plan. The governments have always targeted black neighborhoods for displacement. You damn right. Reparations.
Which, combined with housing discrimination in the form of race-restrictive covenants and redlining, drove many residents north.
This was the only part of town that black people could live.
Today, Hall Harper says her district suffers from poor housing, health care, nutrition, and employment. And a 2015 Tulsa Health Department report found a greater than 10-year difference in the lifespan of those living in a zip code in the north versus just a few miles away in South Tulsa.
The community living in North Tulsa is largely African American, black, brown, and poor people. And South Tulsa is largely white affluent.
Black, brown, and poor. All right.
Black, brown, and poor people. And South Tulsa is largely white affluent. That's a problem. And that's not only a problem for North Tulsans, that's a problem for a city.
She campaigned on a promise to address the food deserts in her community.
There's nothing in discount dollar stores that's healthy.
And in 2021, with support from Mayor Bynum, she helped deliver fresh fruits, vegetables, and dairy in the Oasis Fresh Market. But she says a lot more needs to be done to make this community whole.
You know, I grew up, when I had to apologize, I had to do more than just say I'm sorry. I had to do all that I could do to make right what I had done.
She's currently helping to lead a series of community conversations called Beyond Apology to try to engage residents over what more the city should do, including on the question of reparations.
So when you speak of reparations, what do you mean exactly by that?
I think we are in the process right now of having those conversations beyond apology. But if you're asking me, Vanessa Hall Harper, reparations to me is land and cash.
To whom?
To everyone that was involved, to not only the victims, but to their descendants. But not only were individuals destroyed, community was destroyed. This entire space, this entire area was impacted. And so what does that form of reparations look like? I think those are conversations that we must have.
Mayor G.T. Bynum.
We need to do right by Tulsans who were murdered in 1921. That's why we are doing this search for the graves. We've allocated over $1 million in city funds that has been unanimously supported by the City Council and overwhelmingly supported by the public. The public has overwhelmingly supported our work around economic development. One could view all of that work as reparations. There are others who say you've got to levy a property tax on everyone who lives in Tulsa and issue cash payments. That to me is a much more challenging question because you're financially penalizing everyone who lives in Tulsa today for something that criminals did 100 years ago.
So you see the little smarmy, slimy, Weasley scumbag mayor. Well, you know, I mean, when you think about it, I mean, that could be a form of reparations. You don't get to tell us what the hell reparations is.
That we must have.
Mayor G.T. Bynum.
We need to do right by Tulsans who were murdered in 1921.
Did you hear that? No, I want y'all to understand this little dirtbag, scumbag, slime ball is sitting up here. I told you he was using the words and the language he was using very specifically because when you ask him about what are you going to do for concrete action, he then says very clearly, well, we need to do right by the people who were wronged in 1921. We need to do right by the folks who are dead and can't do nothing. We need to, quote, do right by them. How the hell do you do right by dead people? Well, we need to dig up their bones and acknowledge what happened to them so we can all sit around and rub our chakras and have a discussion about it. Oh, as far as their descendants, yeah, I don't see how you gonna make us pay for that now. So in other words, he's perfectly fine acknowledging what happened on Black Wall Street in 1921. He's perfectly fine addressing it so long as you don't actually do anything. So long as you don't actually disrupt the status quo. So long as that doesn't happen, he's cool. So he was sitting there talking all soft and everything. He looks like a Republican. He's sitting there talking all soft and everything. But right when you get to what we gonna do about it, we're gonna maintain the status quo. We need to do right by the people who were killed in 1921. Yeah, about them. But everybody, ain't nothing else to be done. All we need to do is dig up some bones and say, well, you know, it sure sucks to be y'all. Oh, well, here's a monument. I'll get together with you and sing We Shall Overcome. But in the words of Dr. King, they were okay integrating places and integrating lunch counters. That didn't cost the nation anything. Integrating schools, that didn't really cost them anything. Now we're saying you've got to give reparations for what you did to us. Now that's going to cost you. That's going to change the status quo. That's going to create a generation of black millionaires. And even billionaires. That's going to kick off generational wealth. You won't be able to kick people around the way you've been doing. That will fundamentally change things. So when you heard him talk about what will fundamentally change things, he stopped you real quick and said, no, we ain't going to do nothing that changes anything. We'll sit together and give symbolic gestures. We'll talk about your feelings. But as far as actually changing anything, nah, we ain't with that.
That's why we are doing this search for the graves. We've allocated over $1 million in city funds that has been unanimously supported by the City Council and overwhelmingly supported by the public. The public has overwhelmingly supported our work around economic development. One could view all of that work as reparations.
Economic development. What the hell is economic development? If you are not giving it directly to the black people who are affected by what happened, how the hell is that helping them? Economic development for who? So a bunch of white folk can build a bunch of stores and the black folk can be their customers? What the hell is that? Economic development. Well, you know, if we sit up here and build a freeway through what used to be your neighborhood, and then we bring in some white developers from New York and California to build a shopping mall, and you can be the damn buggy boys and the checkout girls. Well, we got you a job at the shopping center that we built on top of what used to be your thriving Black Wall Street. Well, isn't that a, quote, form of reparations? Now, if you turned around and told him, we're going to blow up the south side of Tulsa, all the white folks going to have to get out and scatter. And when we get done, we're going to pave that bastard over, turn it into a parking lot, build a black shopping mall, and then we're going to give y'all jobs at our shopping mall, and then tell you, well, when you think about it, Becky, that's a form of reparations. Would he be sitting his pasty white ass up here telling you that, well, I can agree with that one? I can back that. That's economic development.
Public has overwhelmingly supported our work around economic development. One could view all of that work as reparations. There are others who say you've got to levy a property tax on everyone who lives in Tulsa and issue cash payments. That to me is a much more challenging question because you're financially penalizing everyone who lives in Tulsa today for something that criminals did 100 years ago. But we're going through a dialogue, and the way I think you address it is to keep the dialogue going.
Man, look here, damn the talk. The time for talk is over. Cut the check. We done talking. We ain't here to sit up here and talk in circles for damn me ever. We already know what you did. The time for talk is over. Cut the check. We through talking. You already know what needs to be done. It's time to get to the doing. Cut the check.
And yet, Republican state lawmakers have arguably made that harder.
More fallout from the signing of House Bill 1775 in Oklahoma.
In 2021, despite opposition from school boards and public universities across the state, Governor Kevin Stitt signed House Bill 1775, legislation restricting how history can be taught in public schools.
And as governor, I firmly believe that not 1 cent of taxpayer money should be used to define and divide young Oklahomans about their race or sex.
Okay, so teaching about slavery isn't dividing people. Well, yeah, they're okay teaching about slavery just so long as you don't demand to do anything about it. Now that black folk are saying, by the way, because of what we learned about slavery, it's time to do something about it. All of a sudden, so black folk living in squalor and black folk living oppressed and black people being dominated and brutalized, that wasn't divisive. That wasn't divisive. Black folks saying we need to do something about it. Oh, that's divisive. Y'all need to understand, these are the American Nazis. These are the American Nazis. If you want to know why it is that I have always rode as hard as I have and rode so hard in the paint for it, these are the Nazis of America. This is the Gestapo in the brown shirts of America. And they are here to do what they have always done. Make it easier to exterminate you. This is ethnic cleansing. This is racial cleansing. And from their haircuts to their janky ass ties to everything else, these are the American Nazis. These are the American fascists. And they are continuing the work that they've been doing now for decades and centuries. So attacking history, they're like, you know what? If history no longer serves white people, then to hell with history. That's what he's saying. And Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott and a number of other governors around the country. That if history will no longer maintain the status quo, and if history will no longer maintain white hegemonic power, then they'll say to hell with history. Burn all the damn history books. Get rid of them. Sanitize them. Chop out whole decades or centuries. If teaching this history is going to disempower us, then to hell with the history. Get rid of it. Throw it out of there. That's what they're doing now. Rip out whole chapters. If it means we got to give up power, then damn history.
On its face, 1775 is about preventing discrimination on the basis of race or sex, but it includes a provision that says no individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any form of psychological distress on account of his or her race or sex, which some worry is so broad and subjective that it's having a chilling effect on the teaching of difficult subjects like the 1921 massacre.
Not teaching slavery is attacking us on the basis of race. Not teaching the Tulsa white supremacist race riots is attacking us on the basis of race. Yes, your children should feel very uncomfortable about a classroom that refuses to acknowledge what happened to them because they are targeting you on the basis of race.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's totally ridiculous that you don't teach history of what actually happened just for fear of making someone feel guilty. Teach them also, in order for this not to happen, these are the things that we must do.
Well, Tulsa Public Schools is the first district in Oklahoma accused of violating a new state law that regulates how districts teach about race and gender.
The law is already having real-world consequences. Last summer, the accreditation ratings of 2 Oklahoma school districts, Tulsa and Mustang, were downgraded. In Tulsa, because teachers took part in an implicit bias training.
House Bill 1775 was created for this purpose, to create accountability and transparency.
Tulsa area resident Janice Danforth spoke in favor of the downgrading at the July State Board meeting in Oklahoma City.
I ask you today to follow through and let TPS be the example across Oklahoma.
How many black faces you see in that room? By the way, how many black faces do you see in that room? Think that over for a moment. Do you think that's accidental? You think that's accidental? See, this is the way black folk gotta live while they're talking about nobody should be made uncomfortable. I feel damn uncomfortable. See, this is the way they want things to remain, is that a black person can be led through a process. I told y'all this way is in court. Do you realize that if you are a black person and you are arrested in America today, you literally could go from being put in handcuffs to put in the jail to going to court to sentenced to spend the rest of your life behind bars and never encounter another black person anywhere along the line. You can have your entire fate decided for you by nothing but room after room of white folk. Now, white people can't name anywhere in America that they could go where they could be arrested, tried, sentenced, their kids' books could be confiscated, rewritten, or anything else, and never encounter another white person. It's just a whole bunch of black folk. That can't happen. Hell, you can't say that you go to a place where it would be majority black. You can't say that. So they're getting together in gangs, if you will, getting together in gangs and saying we are going to bureaucratically, ethnically cleanse this thing.
Board meeting in Oklahoma.
By the way, now they're not getting together to get rid of the illegals. Did you notice that? No, let me go ahead and remind you. They're not getting together to get rid of the illegals. Did y'all notice that? They're not holding a big meeting to get the illegals out of their schools. They're not holding a big meeting to get the illegals off of the workforces. They're not sitting up here confiscating the property of the white men employing them. They're not getting together to deal with that. Dead silence about that. So clearly that doesn't bother them. But yo, black ass, oh, we got something to say about you. Oh, we're holding whole meetings about you. No, not about the illegals. That don't bother us. That doesn't worry us. Nope, we're not worried about that. You? Oh, that's a different matter. So they're letting you know they don't give a damn what's going on. We are always public enemy number one and the primary target.
Meeting in Oklahoma City.
I ask you today to follow through and let TPS be the example across Oklahoma that breaking the law is not only unacceptable, it's illegal, and as a district, you will pay the price for that decision.
A mother of two boys.
Somebody come get Skeletor here. She looks like the kind of damn old decrepit idiot sitting at home. She's irrelevant. She has no friends. Take a look at her. She looks like she just crawled up from under somebody's attic or crawled out of a coffin somewhere. Somebody come and get them. She looks like she smells like cats. And yet y'all are listening to her? What the hell?
As a district, you will pay the price for that decision.
As a district, you'll pay the price for that decision. Boy, doesn't she sound so weak? Don't you hate to hear a Karen jump up, or a Gertrude in this case? Don't you hate to hear a Gertrude jump up? She's got no influence anywhere else in life. She probably doesn't even have kids who go to that school, by the way. She probably doesn't even have any children in the schools. How much you want to bet that she doesn't even have any kids in the schools? And yet she heard that white power was under assault somewhere, and she came riding to the rescue on her hover round with her meth and her fentanyl. And she was able to slither and creep her way up to a microphone. This'll show you what happens if you don't get in line. Meanwhile, a damn strong breeze could blow her little bony ass away. And I would be all in favor of it if I could stand the stench.
As a district, you will pay the price for that decision.
A mother of two boys, one in public school, one in private. In 2021, Danforth founded the Tulsa chapter of Moms for Liberty, a nonprofit parents' rights group started in Florida during the pandemic that has now spread across the country. The group is officially nonpartisan, but aligns itself with conservative causes. Danforth says Tulsa public schools, which for years have struggled with low funding and test scores, need to focus on academics.
And that should really be the only thing they're focusing on, and not diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Are you saying that it's wrong for teachers to be conscious of diversity?
Not at all.
Then what's the argument then?
Well, critical race theory, or if you want to look at diversity, equity, inclusion, equity is making everyone equal. That's not the case, right? We can't all have the same thing. That is Marxism, literally. We want equitable, not equity, where everyone has the same opportunity.
Now, here's the problem with the everyone has the same opportunity argument. The problem is that these white supremacists control who gets an opportunity. That's the problem. Everyone has an opportunity. That's not true. Any job you go to, it's limited who has an opportunity. Management slots are not unlimited. Executive slots are not unlimited. City council slots are not unlimited. Who gets to be in charge is not unlimited. Who has access to capital is not unlimited. Who gets approved for contracts is not unlimited. Everybody does not get the same opportunity, and she knows that with her bug-eyed, fish-faced, roach-built ass. She knows that. She knows full damn well. Oh, we control, everyone should get an opportunity, and we're going to control who has the opportunities. That's how y'all sit up here and end up with their hand-picked Negroes. Because she knows they're throwing you out that phrase that you have equal opportunity. You're not born with equal opportunity. Not in a system of white supremacy. You don't have equal opportunity. And she knows it. So all these white folk are sitting here telling you and me that what we need to do is maintain the status quo. Everything they're saying is to sound so syrupy sweet. Oh, we're not threatening, but everything they're saying is maintain the status quo. Don't change anything, and don't let anything happen that will actually change something. So yeah, we don't want everyone to be equal. That was the last time she told the truth. Because she knows that her job is to make sure your black children never get the opportunity, because she knows those doors are already closed to them. And then when you start telling these black children why the doors are closed, now those children know what to do about it. But if you tell them, if you miseducate them and tell them ain't no door over there, you didn't miss nothing, you're not losing anything, then all of a sudden, what you complaining about? If you didn't get an opportunity, it's because you didn't try hard enough. Remember in my film Race War, when I talked to Jared Taylor, and we were discussing the fact that, by the way, over 60% of your Silicon Valley companies got Asians. That's their workforce. And yet when you go into management, less than 10% of it is Asian. Hell, less than 5%. How can they be 60% of the workforce, and yet the management and ownership of these companies doesn't reflect their Asian population in their employee base? Remember what he said? Well, maybe they don't have as good of management skills. Maybe they don't have as good of networking skills. No, it's because they don't control the opportunities. Doesn't matter who you bring in, they don't control the opportunities. And he knows that. It isn't because the Asians don't work hard enough. It is because you were brought here to empower these white folk, and the white folk ain't gonna give you an opportunity to run the company. You'll have an opportunity to work for the company. You'll have an opportunity to go overtime for the company. You will not have an opportunity to run it. So when they tell you about opportunity, just understand that's more trick bag con job language. And tonight I've explained to you why it is. If anybody tells you that, you tell them use a lie, because you all control the opportunities and you restrict who gets them.
That's not the case, right? We can't all have the same thing. That is Marxism, literally. We want equitable, not equity, where everyone has the same opportunity.
I asked Danforth how teachers are supposed to manage how a student feels about a historical event like the 1921 massacre without worrying about hurting their district's accreditation or jeopardizing their teaching licenses.
How do you carefully make that separation, though?
I think you can show that there were some people in that time frame that were not good people. They had Ku Klux Klan was a terrible organization that did terrible things to black people. And I think kids can learn about it without having to have that concept put on them like it's their fault.
And you think teachers are able to make that distinction, should be able to make that distinction?
Absolutely. I think if you're worried about how you're teaching it, then you're probably teaching it wrong.
I would not want.
So you hear the Karen up here. She is worried that her children will have to compete. And by the way, the other thing here is, aren't these the same white folk who tell you that folks running around talking about their feelings are hurt and everyone wanting to get a participation trophy? Aren't these the same white folk who tell you that that's called woke? You're a snowflake, that's woke. On the one hand, they tell you that if you don't like history being taught, oh, that's woke. Now everybody wanting their feelings to be catered to, and we need to cater to everyone's feelings, that's woke. And here the quote anti-woke people show up saying, we need to worry about our feelings now. And it's not about woke or nothing else, folks. I'm white and I say so. It is not about anything woke. It's I'm white and I say so. So whoever is white and in power, they're going to decide what reality is, what 2 + 2 is. We're white and we say so. And one other thing, you do understand, these white folk are not talking about something happening at a private school. Did you understand that? The white folk are no longer saying, well, as long as my kids aren't in the public schools, I'll take my kids out of the public schools and take them somewhere else. You notice she ain't saying that. Did you notice that? She's not saying I'm going to take my kids out the public school and take them to a private school. Problem solved. Notice they're not saying that anymore. If their goal was for their children not to be affected, they would do what white folk have always done and take their children to private schools. Why is it that you have the ability to put your kids in private schools and yet you're still saying, and we need to crack down on what these public schools are teaching? Because they don't want anybody to even have a chance at learning how to become revolutionized. They want to make sure that they erase this from the population at large. They're not worried about what their white children are learning. They're worried about what your black children are learning, because your black children will be the next generation that's going to come up behind us. And every generation, it gets stronger and stronger. It's becoming inevitable. So they know that, hey, taking my kids to a private school isn't going to prevent reparations from happening. So we can't focus on our white kids in private school. We got to focus on your black kids. If your black kids don't know about slavery and don't know about the Black Wall Street and don't know about what we did to them, then they won't be able to ask. They won't be able to demand reparations if they don't know what happened to them. So this is why they're targeting your black schools with the black kids, even though their white kids aren't even in those schools. They're like, yeah, we don't want the schools being used to, quote, radicalize those black children. We're looking for them to bring us out a whole bunch of Ben Carsons and a whole bunch of Tim Scotts. We're not looking for them to make some Francis Cress Welsings and Dr. John Henry Clarks. We ain't trying to have that. So we're attacking the schools that we originally, quote unquote, desegregated. We desegregated the schools, and now we're passing laws that segregate the education in those schools because you learn to empower yourself with these history books. You picked up these history books and learned to empower yourself. That's why we're attacking the schools, because you're empowering yourself now.
Their fault. And you think teachers are able to make that distinction, should be able to make that distinction?
Absolutely. I think if you're worried about how you're teaching it, then you're probably teaching it wrong.
I would not want any student in Tulsa taught that they're lesser than someone else because of their race. At the same time, there are legitimate concerns around making sure that we do have difficult conversations and that we learn about difficult history.
For his part, Mayor Bynum, a Republican, says if in fact the new state law
I know. Did I call it or did I call it?
Is preventing the teaching of history like the events of 1921, legislators should amend it.
We're home to the consequences of not talking about difficult history for 3/4 of a century right here in Tulsa, where the city fathers after 1921 decided we're not going to talk about this race massacre because it's such an embarrassment. And so now it's left to this generation of Tulsans to try and catch up on all that and investigate it 100 years after the fact, which is really challenging.
Also want to keep educating ourselves and our own. That's really important. So
Community activist Christy Williams isn't waiting for the legislature to act. She recently started her own program, Black History Saturdays, for young people, their parents, and local teachers to meet once a month to learn in an environment free from the fear of saying the wrong thing.
You know, history and learning is uncomfortable. But if you understand someone else's history, then you won't treat them like they're an outcast. If you were taught that all I was is a slave, my people were just slaves, you don't see that much in me. So, I mean, it's a benefit for all people to learn.
Well, here's the issue here. You're not learning about our history. Our history is American history. If you don't learn our history, then you have not learned American history. Period, point blank, end of discussion. If you have not learned our history, then you did not learn American history. You learned some fabrication handed to you by propagandists, but you did not learn our history. You didn't learn it. There's a lot of work going on right now. A lot of the folks out there are hard at work to see if they can erase us, see if they can supplant us, see if they can go backwards, and the things that have always been credited to us, the changes that have always been credited to us, see if they can shift it over to somebody else. Lately now, the folks who have been nominated for it, since they can't give it to the Irish or Italians anymore, since they realize, okay, that one's a bum steer, now they decided, let's see if we can give the Asians credit for what black folk did. I posted this video. Hold on to your stomachs.
You might not recognize this man, but you're certainly familiar with his impact. Wong Kim-ark's fight against the American government helped establish U.S. birthright citizenship for everyone, regardless of race or parental immigration status. In August 1895, Wong Kim-ark, who was in his early 20s, returned home to San Francisco after visiting China, a trip he'd made several times before. However, this time he was denied re-entry because the Collector of Customs refused to acknowledge his status as a U.S. citizen. See, Wong was born in the United States to two Chinese immigrants who were both barred from naturalizing due to their race. The Collector, a known opponent of Chinese immigration, barred Wong under the Chinese Exclusion Act, which blocked citizenship for most Chinese immigrants. Even though Wong was born in the US, the Collector argued that because Wong's parents weren't naturalized, he didn't qualify for birthright citizenship. While the 14th Amendment established birthright citizenship after the Civil War, in practice, it didn't apply to people of all races at the time. Wong was stuck for months on various ships in the San Francisco Bay, but his community rallied behind him and he was eventually able to get legal representation and sue the federal government. His lawsuit went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and surprisingly, Wong won, making his the first case of its kind to see such success. In his landmark case, the United States versus Wong Kim-ark, the justices decided 6-2 that under the 14th Amendment, anyone born in the United States is a citizen, no matter their race or parental immigration status. Though the decision hasn't always been respected, it forever changed how citizenship is defined in the U.S. Since then, Wong's case has served as precedent for protecting the citizenship of other U.S.-born people.
Now, did you hear what they said originally, by the way? Did you hear this? Let me play this again. I want you to understand this part.
Immigrants. Even though Wong was born in the US, the Collector argued that because Wong's parents weren't naturalized, he didn't qualify for birthright citizenship. While the 14th Amendment established birthright citizenship after the Civil War, in practice, it didn't apply to people of all races at the time.
Oh, so what are you saying? Are you saying that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were specifically put into place for the descendants of the slaves? Oh, so this was specifically for us. And they immediately went to work trying to dilute it down and change it into something else. Now, that's one way of reading it. One way of reading it is, by the way, it didn't apply to anyone but the descendants of the slaves. That's who we did this for, because we know who we were supposed to do it for. We're supposed to do it for them. In other words, you're acknowledging that there's unfinished business because you've never made good on the Constitution's promises to us. 13, 14, 15 Amendments. You've never made good on that. You've given the blessings to other people, but you've never made good on it for the people that this was written for. So I'm just reminding y'all, so now they're talking about this guy Wong, and it's like, by the way, it was a law that you now freely admit was put in place for us. And then you're telling us that he's benefited. He didn't help a damn thing. If the Supreme Court said that we are acknowledging this, it wasn't because they passed a new law. The Supreme Court is saying that his ability to be recognized as a citizen was not dependent on a new law. It was dependent on the 14th Amendment that had already been passed for foundationals. It was already there. That what we did, all they did was rubber stamp and say, yeah, this applies to him. He didn't make nothing happen. We made that happen. There weren't a bunch of Asians who got together and there was some groundswell to go to the Supreme Court and they were standing out there by the thousands and the throngs and they were standing out there by the legions and they were standing out there through the winter and the snow and the rain and the ice and the hail. That didn't happen. They went to the Supreme Court and said, hey, you know what them black folks did? Yeah, I think that should apply to me too. All right, rubber stamp. There you go, done. He didn't have to fight for legislation. He didn't have to fight for ratification. They didn't have to go state by state. This wasn't the Dred Scott decision. This wasn't the Brown versus Board of Education decision. This wasn't even close. He came in here to ride on our coattails. This wasn't even close. And these folks are trying to sit up here and act like he did something monumental. No, he didn't. It's a minor case that literally was already predetermined when you hear the Supreme Court say, oh, this doesn't even require a new law. The 14th Amendment already covers you. So they're freely acknowledging that what we did opened the doors for all these other people. You damn right I'm yelling it, because ain't nobody telling it. Shout out DOC. No beef. You let them tell the damn story and you think that this was some crusader for civil rights sitting there on your screen. No, he wasn't. We did all the crusading. We took all the blows. We took all the bullets. We took all the arrows in the back. Some of them from these other minorities. We paved the way. We put up the doors. We built the house and the walls. All these other folk had to do was move in. We did this. Your birthright citizenship, sir, you're welcome. That's all we got to say to you. You didn't help establish a damn thing. We built that. You're welcome. You're welcome. And we continue doing so to this very day. While the rest of them sit up here and tell the world that they did something as we continue building it to this very day. You're welcome, sir. That's all we got to say to you. You're welcome. You damn right we built it. However, it goes even further. It goes even further because there's some more I want to deal with here. Oh, I'm not even done with you yet. There's some more that I want to deal with. I want to take you even deeper off into this because I want to show you how they deal with things on flip sides. I want to show you how they deal with the flip side of this kind of thing happening. Because you're not going to believe some of what you're going to see here. You're not going to believe some of it, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. However, before we do, we're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When I come back, just strap yourselves to your chairs when you see what you're going to see. Just everything is going to kind of blow your mind when you see this. It's going to be like, okay, we're in La La Land. We're in Neverland. Down is up is down. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo, my man Black Voltron, Tommy Felix in the Super Chat. Thank you very much for your support. Mr. Richburg, Mark B, Mr. Baker, Mr. Derbyshire, and everybody else who has contributed to support tonight's program. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When I come back, strap in. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is the Black Channel.
Are you ready to take the next step in your career or business? With Higher Life Recruiting and Consulting, you can get the help you need to reach your goals. Our experiences span multiple industries, giving us the ability to source top talent across various fields. We specialize in STEM and high-tech industries, but we are equally adept at recruiting and professional services. Our services include career consulting, resume writing, LinkedIn consulting, interviewing, lead generation, sourcing, and talent mapping. Follow us on Instagram at Get Higher With Us.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black First. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spirit of1811publishing.com and show your love.
Having computer problems? Is your PC or Mac running slow? Need help building a gaming PC? Having problems with your Apple or Android device? Call or text Fix Too Fast. We can fix common and uncommon computer software issues remotely anywhere nationwide from the comfort of your home or business. Are you having hardware issues with your PC or Mac? Ship it to us and we will ship it back fixed. Call 1-877-412-9890 or text 513-440-1646 to speak to a technician. Please visit our website at www.fixtoofast.net.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Joe Jackson. I'm a foundational Black American, and I entered the field of IT with the goal of helping the family globally. The industry's been changing, and I've learned a lot. But how did we get here? How do we navigate issues we face in the workplace? How can we get our house in order? Read The Concept and Intricacies of Being Black in IT, now on Amazon, as well as the best-selling Guide to Being Black in IT. Go to beingblackинit.com.
More Threads, a brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen, was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all this evening here. Big shout out here to my man Andrew L. for contributing to support tonight's program. Thank you very much for your support tonight, brother. We appreciate that. And folks, in a story that you really got to see to believe, you've really got to see this to believe this. This is another story from Now This News, the gift that keeps on giving. All I can say is strap yourself in, starting with the very title of this. Yeah, you can see the title of it on your screen. Retired NYPD officer preserves Asian American gang history. All right. Now, when we talk like that, it's glorifying gangs, but he's preserving the history. Okay, all right. Can't wait to hear this one.
Hollywood glamorized the Italian mob, but the Asians, their story are much more colorful. They had connections all over the world with the triads, the Tongs. The Italians, they only controlled basically New York City and maybe some states in the West Coast, but with the Asians, they were moving in the heroin at a much larger volume. They were making a lot more money.
Oh, you mean what black folk been saying the whole time? Because you see, when we said that here on the Black Channel, they told us that was wrong. When Tariq said that, they told him he was making it up. They told us that we were being xenophobic. They told us that we were fabricating this. This is a retired NYPD officer telling you, oh, by the way, we were much bigger than the Italians. Now, some of what he's saying there is not actually accurate because the Italian mafia had a hold on New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Philadelphia, New Orleans. Remember, it was Carlos Marcello that put a hit on the U.S. President, John F. Kennedy. As time goes on, now they get bold enough and they're no longer so cowardly that they won't acknowledge the obvious, but it was the Italian mafia of Louisiana. Carlos Marcello put the hit on JFK. Something that the New York mafia, Philadelphia mafia, Carlos Marcello was so strong and was so inevitable. From Louisiana, he killed a sitting U.S. president. So I would tell the gentleman he might want to update the stump speech. I know you're putting a little bit too much icing on the stump speech, brother. You're putting a little bit too much icing on it. But if we sit up here and say it like it is, it's like But he is right about the fact that they've been moving heavyweight for decades. They've been moving super heavyweight. Let's just keep it a buck. Frank Lucas, come on now. Could they have made the bread they did without the Asian connect? It wasn't the Italian connect that built him into what he was. It was the Asian connect. It was the Asian plug that did it. Can we say that? Am I saying too much? Am I about to get in trouble? Am I about to burst some bubbles? Some folks didn't know that. Y'all know it, Frank Lucas. Hey, it wasn't the Italians that got him built. He got the Asian plug. Once he got the Asian plug, that was it. Never look back. Okay, but who did they come and arrest? Frank Lucas had the Asian plug, but only the black folk went to prison. Did you see any Asians on the stand or getting indicted along with Frank? Nope, get your black ass in the paddy wagon. You coming with us.
With the Asians, they were moving in the heroin at a much larger volume. They were making a lot more money. The major gangs in New York City from the 1970s up until the mid-1990s were the Flying Dragons, Gold Shadows, Dong On, BTK, Green Dragons, Phug Ting, and White Tigers. There was a surge in gang activity during that time, especially the drug trade. When the Italians left the heroin business, they left a vacuum. A lot of the gangs were doing recruitment during that time. And it was very easy to attract these kids from poor family and new immigrants coming in without.
Let me replay this part again so you hear what he said.
And White Tigers. There was a surge in gang activity during that time, especially the drug trade. When the Italians left the heroin business, they left a vacuum. A lot of the gangs were doing recruitment during that time. And it was very easy to attract these kids from poor family and new immigrants coming in without any opportunities. Throughout all those years, I was the only Asian kid in my class, and I was bullied. And to get protection from those bullies, I joined the gang.
So he's letting y'all know he had to get mobbed up when he was a kid. But understand something else. So he's telling you that after the Italians, fell back on the hard drugs, they never got out of it completely, but they fell back because the government was coming at them. The Asians stepped in. Okay, but I ask y'all, when's the last time you saw a RICO indictment against the Asians? The Asians are moving super heavyweight. Will someone tell me who's the Asian mobsters, the Asian gangs who've been put up on RICO charges? Because they brought in Nicky Barnes people by the damn dozens. And yet I've never seen a trial where the Asians were brought into court by the dozens. Hell, you can't get them in there by the threes. They ain't brought in there by the dozens. You go to a penitentiary, it'll be 3 Asians in the whole damn building. So y'all moving the majority of the weight. Y'all moving the majority of the white. Y'all moving the majority of the brown. Y'all moving the majority of the black. And yet, when we look in the prisons, you ain't to be seen. Someone explain to me how you can be moving the majority of the weight out there and yet no RICO indictments, no charges, no nothing. We don't have an Asian John Gotti. Now, is that by accident or is that by design?
Today, I still see the same problems, but a lot less because there are more resources out there and more opportunities for the kids out there. There's still a lot of criminal activities going on in Chinatown, but there's a lot less recruiting. They operate in more like cliques or cells or just a few people. They don't have a hierarchy anymore. It's still around. I mean, there's kids who want to have that sense of belonging. So hopefully there's more resources out there to keep the kids away from this type of life.
Now you heard what he just said. He said they're still out there, but they operate in cells. There is no hierarchy. Now, that's anathema to a gang. There's no such thing as a gang that doesn't have hierarchy. But what you do, if you do say something like that, then what you're saying is that the code is the leader. That they all have a code that they adhere to. Therefore, everyone is part of the hierarchy because everyone has adopted the code.
When you join a gang, you're either going to wind up dead, hurt, or in prison. Some of my friends got shot and they're paralyzed for life, and some of them are never going to be the same again. So there's a lot of information out there that's not accurate about the Asian gangs. It's because Asian gangs had such a tight grip on the Asian community that even to this day, they're afraid to talk about them. And their kids only hear bits and pieces and whispers about the life back in those days, but they don't know what really happened. And that's one of the reasons why I started this channel, is to be able to preserve this piece of history and just pass it on to the future generation, because this is history. It may sound violent, or it may be, not what you want to hear, but...
Sir, it doesn't sound violent. It is violent. It may sound violent. No, sir, actually it is. It actually is.
This is history. It may sound violent, or it may be, not what you want to hear, but it happened.
He's just preserving Asian gang history. Now, when we do it, we glorifying gang violence. When we do it, now he's preserving Asian American. Oh, isn't that so nice? He's preserving Asian American gang history. And this is a former cop, y'all, 26 years. Gang member becomes cop in New York. And you wonder why niggas is getting beat down all over the damn place. These are just the Asians. What about how many Dominican gang members are members of the NYPD, LAPD? You already know, LA Sheriff's Department. How many of them are members of these police departments and sheriff's departments riding around right now? Riding around today. How many of them? Come on now. And then you wonder why Peter Liang was able to walk. Then you wonder why Peter Liang was able to walk. 720 degrees of the analysis that you'll receive absolutely nowhere else. However, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the program that started all, the headquarters of the new black media. This is the place for you to be. So definitely you are welcome to give us a call. Not going to be on too much later here tonight. Got some things to take care of. But I definitely want to go ahead and have an opportunity to take a few phone calls here before we do that tonight. So you're definitely welcome to give us a call. We're having issues with the phone lines earlier today. I'm certainly hoping that there's no issues with it here now. Let's go ahead and give it a try and see how it goes. Caller from area code 215. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello. Hi. This is Vanessa from Philly.
Okay, Vanessa from Philadelphia. What's on your mind?
Trinessa.
All right, Trinessa, what's on your mind?
Hey, yes, I'm calling because I know that you were talking about the whole thing in Tulsa, and I noticed when I watched when they had the 100-year thing about what happened in Tulsa, and President Biden got up to speak, and he said that the United States government did not drop bombs on those people. Our people, and I was really, really disgusted because he spoke to the entire world when he said that. And I remember what you were saying before about how with Mike Bloomberg, when he got up, the folks at the church turned their back on him. And I kind of wish that the people had done that they had turned their back and got up and walked out.
Well, that's the reason why this education effort that we're undertaking is so pivotal. Because first, we got to give the broad strokes. You got to remember something. This is something that's been taught continuously now for over a century, and it hasn't been. So it falls to us to fill in those education gaps. First, we teach you about these things. Then we move to the next step, which is, okay, we're going to get reparations. We got to start watching out for some of the trick bag language. So technically speaking, Biden is correct. The federal government did not do that. So in that respect, well, yeah, he's right. It wasn't the central United States government that did it. Well, no, but it was an American government that did. Now, it wasn't the federal national government, but it was an American government that did that. Though those nuances need to be known so that we make it very clear. It's like, yeah, we see what you're trying to do. The bottom line is, however, the federal government is responsible for punishing a rogue state government, Oklahoma, and a rogue city government, Tulsa. The United States federal government is the one that's supposed to walk in and frog march out rogue governors, rogue sheriffs, rogue mayors. The U.S. government's supposed to do that. That's what the federal government is supposed to be for. When you have a rogue government that is ignoring the Constitution, then the federal government is supposed to come down there and get him. The federal government is supposed to come down there with the troops and grab all of them. So in that respect, no, you did not commit the initial act, but you became collaborators ex post facto after the fact when you refused to prosecute and refused to punish long after you were made aware. Remember, there is no statute of limitations on murder. There is no statute of limitations for murder. They had all those decades that they could have come and grabbed them folk and did not do it. You just became collaborators and co-conspirators. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. You damn right I'm yelling it. Caller from area code 323. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Big Brother Jason. This is Brother Elijah calling out of Dallas, Texas.
All right, Brother Elijah out of Dallas, what's on your mind?
Big Brother, I got a quick question for you. I'm not going to be too long because I'm at the FBA Expo. I got a question. What you're speaking tonight with the erasing of history, just a few weeks ago, Professor Black Truth talked about the Blancos, how they erased the black Hispanics from the society, not physically, but just if they're not part of anything, no TV. Are we, as foundationals, are we facing that that same state right now as we speak?
At the hands of whom?
At the hands of the white supremacists, at the hands of the system.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly they wanted to look organic. They certainly wanted to look like you just got organically moved out the way, that you just organically disappeared, that this was just the natural order of things and this was the natural progression of things. That's what they wanted to appear like.
Yes, sir.
They wanted to appear like that. So, yes, it's a concerted, conscious effort to gradually just move you out until he pushes to the side until eventually you're gone. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller Mary code 901. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Well, hello, Jason Black. My name is Brian, calling out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, Brian.
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
Don't be afraid. I come in peace. I'm a grown man. Since you're a man, I'm not afraid of nothing because I can't speak on your chat because I get blocked speech. So, if you don't mind, I have a question.
I'm pretty sure that I will mind, actually, but go ahead.
So why are you mocking Nazis? So you're a black Nazi occult, right? Let's talk about it. Hello?
Okay, sir, all I can say
Hello?
is the fentanyl.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and justify it because you support black Nazi occult. This is what this is, people.
Okay,
Let it be known. Go ahead.
What is a black Nazi occult? What is the black Nazi occult you're referring
black
to?
Man fought to break black women in America and men and children. What have you supported in America in this nation, Jason Black? Huh?
I've supported justice.
Answer. And y'all want reparations. Let's speak now. Don't be afraid and everything.
Folks, mental illness is a real thing. Mental illness, untreated mental illness is a problem in the world today. It really, really is. So somebody has let their drug-addled nephew loose on a phone somewhere. So
go ahead and throw the dirt, Jason. Go ahead and throw the dirt. I'll take all the dirt. Okay?
By all means,
Humility
continue.
comes before honor, people. Because black people don't have any unforgiveness. Are you done playing with your toys?
You were saying?
Are you done playing with your toys, Jason?
You were saying?
Are you done playing with your toys, Jason?
Last time, sir, what were you saying?
Last time I asked these nuts, nigger. Are you done playing with your toy?
Okay. Well, certainly, like I say, the meth, they're lacing the meth with talcum powder and foot powder and it's right now, y'all got to understand, since the pandemic, the drugs are all messed up now. You know, they mixing H in it and the fentanyl, just the drugs are all mixed up, man. It's messed up right now. Folks can't get the stuff they used to get. They can't really get that. So now they're just having to get by however they get by. They're having to sit up here and make it happen however they can make it happen. That's all they can do. They just got to grab whatever in the world, Sherry, the local meth plug, they got to just take whatever she can give. They got to just take whatever she gives. Anyway, he sounds like he needs a wellness check. He sounds like he needs a wellness check. Now, I don't know who he was. I don't know where he's from, but hopefully somebody recognizes his voice. Hopefully somebody recognizes his voice. I don't know. If anybody knows who that was, do him a solid and maybe see if we can get a hold of him. Let's do him a solid and see if we can get a hold of him and do a wellness check. I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is or anything, but certainly a wellness check is in order. So if anybody wants to get on top of that for me, if anybody wants to get on that, if you remember, if you know his name or whatever, maybe we can get his contact information or something and we can do a wellness check. I don't know. Maybe we can do a wellness check. So just saying, maybe one of my mods or somebody can get his phone number, his information, and put out a wellness check for him. Because he sounds like he's unwell. He sounds like he needs somebody. He sounds like he needs somebody to help him out. He sounds unwell. He's very, very upset and very, very angry. Y'all, do you see? He went nuts tonight. You do understand he could actually be prosecuted. He went nuts tonight. He's like, how dare you say that you understand that reconciliation is not action? How dare you say that? How dare you say that? How dare you all sit here and talk about real, concrete, actionable things? You know that you are attacking white supremacy at its core when that happens. So hopefully somebody finds his number and puts it in the chat so we can give him a wellness check. Because he sounds very worried and he sounds very disturbed. Caller from area code 225, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Terry, and I'm calling from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay, you say Terry?
Yes, sir, Terry.
All right, Terry from Baton Rouge, and what's on your mind?
I actually have a question for you. So do you think it's mostly, or a mixture of both, guilt or fear that they're trying to suppress our history, suppress us teaching our children? And would it make a difference in their motive of how we approach them policy-wise, or, you know, groups we might be in conflict with? How do you have any tactics to suggest?
Well, yeah, exactly what we're doing right now. I mean, look, at some point, you're going to meet the brick wall. At some point, you're going to meet solid resistance. When you've gotten to the core and the heart of the problem, remember, when somebody's trying to deceive you with negotiation, what do? They start, quote unquote, conceding things. So they start making concessions. But you got to understand, people only make concessions of non-essentials. So they're not telling you what is non-essential. They're going to make you hem and haw and negotiate and debate and come back later. But they're not going to just tell you, okay, I'm really willing to give you $75,000, but I'm going to make it seem like I need you to give me $100,000. So when you finally do argue your way down to $85,000, you feel like you've made me give up something. When in reality, I was willing to give up $25,000 anyway. So that's the way that works. Now, once you get down to that 75, you're like, yeah, but you see, you owe me another 25 on top of that already. So you got to give me $100,000. Now it's going to go differently because this is the essential part. This is non-discretionary. Now you've gotten to the part where he can't sacrifice this. He didn't come intending to sacrifice it. That's what we're going after. That's where we're going. So eventually, one way or another, you got to get there. That part that they don't want to give up. At some point, you're going to have to go to war, sharpen your blades, get your shields, and go after that. And that's where we are today. Okay. Now, when you say they're afraid, hell yeah, they're afraid. I've been to Baton Rouge many a moon. You take a look at what's going on down there and what's been going on down there for over a couple of centuries. Black folks should be living high on the hog. The white folk have forever been trying to figure out how to build up the city because it's the state's capital. How do you build it up but at the same time leave black folk on the outside? And you see the same thing up the street, or up Interstate 10, in New Orleans. I was staying on St. Charles Place in New Orleans. Looks nice. They got things built up, Hilton and things like that. IHG. Hey, that's great. That's wonderful. Canal Street looks like damn me Miami. But you can see what's happening. They're trying to figure out how to make New Orleans prosperous, but leave black folk behind. How do we make the city more prosperous, but leave you on the outside? So when you start figuring out the mechanisms and the tricks that they use to do that, then all of a sudden you start going, you got to stop doing that. Now every discussion becomes about the trick they're trying to play. Because it used to be that they'd send out some black politician, he would use some trick bag language, and we would all fall for it, and then we all have to come back in 4 years. Damn, you tricked us last time. Now they can't fool us like they used to, so everything is a knife fight now. Everything is a shootout now. Because we're like, hey, what's on the agenda is reparations. What's on the agenda is concrete, tangible financial resources. That's on the agenda now. So that's why everything is a knife fight. Your history, your roadways, your language, everything is a knife fight. Because we're all centering our discussions on reparations and specifically on economics. We ain't talking about integrating anymore. We're not talking about us being in the church anymore. We're not talking about education anymore. We going straight for the finance and the dollars. So no, you can't have the same conversation you had before. It's fundamentally changed. Every time they open up a door or a meeting for us to talk, we go straight to the money. And they are painfully sensitive to this now because they know what we're doing. But eventually you reach a point where you just got to bring it straight up the middle. You can't fake it. You can't pretend. You can't camouflage it. You talking about real dollars now. You're going to have to just come straight up the middle. Right up the middle. And that's where we are today.
Total sense. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 708. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is William. I'm calling from Maywood, Illinois.
All right, William, and what's on your mind?
Hey, that call just from that coot validates the new black media.
Oh, yeah.
They're listening, and they're trying to figure out what to do, but they don't have enough intelligence to come up with a plan to combat the truth. It shows their ignorance.
Well, it also shows their weakness. You see, if they could do something, they would be doing it. If all you can do is sit up here and yell and scream and troll, that's what babies do. When babies are throwing a tantrum, they squeal, they yell, they troll. You ain't actually doing nothing because you can't do anything. So now they're just basically venting. Well, if venting makes them feel better, go ahead and vent away. But it's not going to stop the inevitable. And when we get to that point, there won't be any screaming or yelling or venting. It's going to be dead silence. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a caller from area code 404. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Brother Aquarius calling from Atlanta.
All right, Brother Aquarius from Atlanta. And what's on your mind?
After years and years of collecting all the daily evidence, I done us all the lynchings and everything. I just wanted to know if it was at all possible to sue for reparations.
Technically, yes, it is. But in order, you would be suing on a massive basis, and U.S. law doesn't really allow that. That's the problem. U.S. law doesn't really allow, quote unquote, suing for reparations. Because now you're going through legal mechanisms and who's at fault and gathering evidence. Is it a criminal case? Is it a civil case? So, in order to do that, you'd have to have a law that substantiates your ability to do that. Jews didn't have to sue for anything. That was a government action that did it in Europe and America.
That's
the
true.
Japanese didn't have to sue for anything. That was a political action, just like the Asian hate crime bill. That was a political action that was undertaken. They didn't have to sue for that. So in order for you to be able to do that, you'd have to maybe go international, but you'd be suing the United States internationally. That's what you'd have to do. You don't really have a civil national domestic mechanism that allows you to do that. Not really, you don't. You can't, you can try to take action on that, but you have to get very specific, because you can't make the claim. It's going to be very, very difficult to try to make a claim on behalf of a specific group of people in a court of law, because now you have to have plaintiffs, but you got to have defendants. Who's defending the defendants? Well, it's the United States government. Well, the United States government did what exactly? And remember one other thing. The United States government, it's legal for the government to commit atrocities. For those of you who don't know, it is perfectly legal for the United States government to commit atrocities. Ask the Afghans. Ask the Iraqis. Ask the Africans.
Yeah, because
it is perfectly legal. Remember, right now, today, I posted the story here a few weeks ago. The United States government is criticizing Russia for invading Ukraine. They're doing all these sanctions. They're sending missiles and bombs and jet planes over there. But when the International War Tribunal said, yeah, we want to indict Vladimir Putin for what he's doing, the United States pulled out. I posted this story for you all. The United States government pulled out of that and said, no, we don't want you to target Putin directly. Well, why not? Because the United States government got the same guilt on their hands in Iraq, in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Somalia. The United States has got the same charges against them by other people in other governments. So they're like, hey, if we allow you to do that to Putin, you all could come here next month and come get George H.W. Bush and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Y'all could come grab them. So the United States government, in the midst of its so-called counteraction against Russia and Putin, came to their defense and said, yeah, we don't want you going after Putin directly. So that's what I'm telling you. In case you didn't know, them's the rules. Professor Black True talked about this years ago. The United States government is not a signatory on the Human Rights Commission. If you didn't know, the United States government's not a signatory on that. That's not accidental. Because they're like, hey, we want the leverage to go ahead and violate your damn rights. You don't have any rights. If the government says you don't have those rights, you don't have them. And they want to be able to say that you only have the rights that we say you have. So suing them in their courts, the first thing they can invoke is, by the way, it's legal because we did it. We had a justifiable reason for doing it, or it was a justifiable mistake. But understand, if you take the U.S. government to court, it's not going to be Joe Biden on your side of the table against the U.S. government. It's going to be you against the U.S. government. They're going to have solicitors and attorneys over there on their side arguing for why it was okay to do it. Whatever you name, they're going to say it was okay for them to do it.
That makes perfect sense, especially because I remember hearing that the U.S. really isn't involved with the United Nations. So when they do things against us, we can't go to the United Nations to make a complaint because we didn't sign something with them. Well, we stayed at it.
Yeah, the United States government has
makes
covered its
perfect
ass legally. The United States government, there's a number of people who, if they could sue them, they would. You'd have to go international, but remember one thing. An international court only has the powers that it is able to enforce. So you could find the U.S. presidents guilty from sunup to sundown. Can you get them? Thank you very much for giving us a call. That's why you could indict Pol Pot. And that's why you could indict Noam Chua. and brother number 2 and brother number 3. You could indict them because you had the ability to go get them. You could indict Saddam Hussein because you had the ability to go retrieve him. You could indict Muammar Gaddafi. You had the ability to go retrieve him. Who gonna come get Joe Biden? Who gonna come booming into Texas and come get George W. Bush? Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna come get Barack Obama? Who's gonna come get them? If the U.S. government chooses not to give them up, who they gonna come get? Who's gonna come get them? What the woman say? Who gonna check me, boo? Y'all, this is gangsterism. Just understand, this is gangsterism. They're like, yeah, we blew up your damn country. We assassinated the head of state. Yeah, we done killed all the damn women and children. What you gonna do? You gonna come get me? What you gonna do? This is where we at. This is where we at. So a lawsuit, good luck. Call from area code 267. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Oh, my name's Barry. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
All right, Barry from Philadelphia. What's on your mind?
Just just listening to the story that happened that we just watched. It gets you pissed off. It gets you mad. And I was just reading this article about the Red Summer in 1919, where hundreds of Black Americans were slaughtered throughout America. And the government, and the FBI agency, what they did was they contacted all the gun owner stores, all the gun stores, and they told them not to sell no ammunition to no more Black people. So we couldn't defend ourselves, because this was after the war, and a lot of soldiers came back. So white people started being scared that Black people was going to rise up. So the government stopped us from being able to purchase weapons and ammunition.
Well, I mean, they've always had an informal embargo against us doing that, even to this day, as a matter of fact. But certainly they've always had an idea that they need to control our access to weapons. They need to control what we're going to do, because you have these flashpoints where these things happen, and a highly dominated, highly oppressed group of people, you can just box them in a corner and then just stamp them out. And that has always been the goal. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller area code 206. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Rome, Seattle.
All right, Rome, Seattle. What's on your mind?
Jason, I had a question, but of course you answered it. And basically I wanted to stay on the line and say thank you very much for all your work.
Well, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. B1 as always. Let me get caller area code 703. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, brother, JB, this is Tiffany calling from Valdosta, Georgia. How are you?
All right, Tiffany from Valdosta, and what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just calling to thank you for all that you do not do for the Black community. If I may just play devil's advocate, I just want to say that a lot of the problems and issues that's facing Black America with the immigrants and it trying to erase Blacks in America, thanks to you and people like Tariq Nasheed, who encourages Black men to date outside their race, this is the result. Thank you.
Okay. And who are you referring to as encouraging that?
You and Tariq Nasheed have encouraged that over the years.
Okay. When have I encouraged anyone to quote unquote date outside the race? When did I advocate for that?
This was a few years ago where you have encouraged the men that called into your show or that you're following to date women outside the race because Black women just weren't fit or, qualified to raise children.
When did I say for them to do that? Because you're making up something I never said. So what exactly did I say? Because I never said anything of the like. It's not some years ago. You can't remember what it was?
A few years ago.
Okay, you can't remember what it was. You're the one making this up.
I'm trying to talk.
You're the one making this
I'm not
up.
making
You say
this
a
up,
few
sir.
years ago. Can you quote exactly
No,
what I
I'm
said?
telling you, a few
Okay,
years
quote
ago,
my
you
words.
used to call black women bastard baby makers. And Tariq Nasheed even did a whole video in Brazil where he was telling brothers to go to Brazil and get with white European Brazilians
Okay,
there.
ma'am, I don't know. We're going to talk
America.
about me. And when did I tell anybody that saying bastard baby maker, how'd you make the leap from that to saying they need to date non-black women? Why are you making this lie up?
You were saying
when a person has to lie this when you have to lie this
makers,
blatantly, that means that's really bad on you. When you got to lie this badly.
Sir, I'm not, but this is what I heard from you.
Okay,
so you never used the term bastard baby makers.
Sure, I use it all the time. I'll use it right now because you sound like you've had 5 kids, you bastard baby making hood rat.
Sir,
I'll say it right now.
I have one child and I'm married to the father.
I don't believe that.
I have one child and I'm married to the father.
I don't believe it. I don't
believe
believe
it or not.
Put him on the line. Put him on the line. Put him on the line.
My husband on the line to speak to you.
You don't have one. Put him on the line.
You know you have.
I'll pay you $20. I'll pay you $20. Okay, I'll pay you $20 and a membership at Jenny Craig. Put your husband on the line.
What in the hell is $20 going to do for me?
I'll pay you $50 and a subscription to Weight Watchers. Put your husband on the line.
$50 for a subscription to Weight Watchers. That's just one subscription. That's
you need. Okay, that's just one dinner. I know you'll scarf that down in about 5 minutes. I'll pay you $100.
I sure will.
I'll pay you $100 and I will pay you $100 and a Bally's membership. You big fat ass hog. Put your husband on the line. You liar.
No, you a liar.
Put your husband on the line. Put your husband on the line, Sitta Bay. Put him on the line for us so we can see him. Put him on the line for us. By the way, one more thing. Because, by the way, they're upset tonight, boy. She's like, I'm 400 pounds. I'm 400 pounds soaking wet. I'm angry. She sounds like she needs a wellness check for real, doesn't she? What is she so angry about, baby? Hey, look here. If you switch to a plant-based diet and do some exercises, then, things will go a little bit different from you. You're very angry. I'm mad. There's a reason why the men are not fooling with you. I don't blame. Baby, look here. You got to come differently than that. Life is short. What's a man going to do with Gabby Sidibe sitting up here? What's he going to do with this? What is he going to do with you? Boy, she is mad as hell, ain't she? You need to worry less about who's dating you, and you need to worry more about a sensible exercise regimen. I would recommend that. You need to worry less about who black women are dating, and you need to worry more about where black women are working out at, starting with yourself. I would say let's hold a collection to get her a fitness membership. I would say let's hold a collection for that. But yeah, that's a different matter. By the way, if one of my mods, if y'all get her number, hopefully we can do a wellness check on her. Hopefully we can do a wellness check. But by the way, just in case my mods get that information, put it out there for us there. The female troll, she needs a wellness check. So I hope somebody recognizes her voice. I hope somebody recognizes her voice and gives her a wellness check. Because I don't know what her number is. I don't know what her number is, but I hope that somebody recognizes her voice. And if you do, go ahead and give them a call. In the chat room there, Deneen, you need to give us a call right now. You got 2 minutes to be on the phone line, Deneen. So very glad that Deneen has a good question in the chat room. Hey, Deneen, you got 2 minutes to be on the phone line. Let me go ahead and throw the number up there so we can make sure you don't miss it. But Deneen Grant, you need to be on the phone lines, dear. You need to be on the phone lines, ma'am. Since you have such an interesting question, why don't we go ahead and answer that? No need for you to hide out in the chat rooms. That's kind of cowardly. Come on now. You'll burn a few extra calories reaching over and picking up the phone. Don't be hurt. I know it's small weight though, but just think of it like barbell curls. Up, down, 1, 2, 1, 2, feel the burn. But yeah, Deneen just volunteered to give us a call. So Deneen has 2 minutes to be on the line, or Deneen takes permanent vacation. Perfectly fine either which way it goes. I'm cool with it either which way. But Deneen's got questions to ask. Might as well go ahead and call the source. Might as well go ahead and do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Hell, some of the trolls are upset now. No need to be upset. Hey, y'all, I'm just saying, don't y'all want to help a big, fat, obese sister out? She's very, very angry that black men are not contacting her. She's very upset that black men don't want to talk to her. Well, you know what? I hope somebody gets her number so that some folks can contact her and talk to her. She says she's lonely. She says she wants black male interaction. I think that's a great idea. I just hope somebody has her number so that they can contact her and find out what it is. And then y'all can report back to me and tell me what's going on. By the way, that'd be nice. Call from area code 425. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Agnes calling from Seattle, Washington. Good evening.
Agnes from Seattle, and what's on your mind?
Hi, I just wanted to respond to that female troll. Evidently a tether babbling divester. Unfortunately, I actually do know who she is. Yeah, you called her right.
Well, it's very, very obvious.
Some people are so desperate for. Some people are so desperate. When you have low self-esteem, you'll do anything to get attention, the wrong kind of attention. So you called that out. So warning out there for anybody else who can't handle the truth, which what you've been putting out there throughout your program. Well, you reap what you sow. That's all I have to say. Good program. Thank you very much.
Well, she's been reaping it and sowing it and eating it. That's the problem. Like, it'd be different if she just reap what she sows, but she's been reaping, sowing, and eating. Or at least I don't know if she's been reaping. I don't know if she's been sowing anything. She's been sowing it, she's been reaping it, and then she's been eating it. So somebody else has been sowing it and reaping it, and she's been eating what they sowing and reaping. So it's just keep her away from that whole part of the food chain right there. What she needs is a fast and some supportive friends. Caller from area code 434. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Oh, Django, where are you? Django.
Okay. Mental health disease is a real problem here. By the way, I hope somebody has his information. I know they're angry tonight. They're going to have a lot more to be angry about. But by the way, the asylum is open. The mental health issues are big. Y'all, we're going to have some fun with them this evening. We're going to have some fun with them this evening. They're going to be a little bit upset, but we're going to have some fun with them this evening. They mad, y'all. The coons are mad. The tethers, divestors are mad. They angry about it. We're going to give them plenty more to be angry about. So, folks, I hope we can do a wellness check. I hope we can do a wellness check on the Django caller. If anybody knows his name or his number, if you recognize him, that voice probably sounds familiar to somebody. So, hey, it's a Saturday night. I want y'all to do a wellness check. We need to do a wellness check. We need to do a wellness check, and I want y'all to get back at me and let me know. Hey, Jason, I wanted to check in on him. So I hope somebody knows the Django Trolls phone number so that we can do a wellness check. I hope they do. They seem very, very angry tonight. So I hope we can get them the help that they need. For those of you watching live or recorded, if you recognize any of these people, let's get in touch with them. Somebody get in touch with them and let them know, hey, we're here to help. I heard you was having issues or problems. We want to help. We just want to make sure we can help you. And you know that they're up. You know that they're up right now. You know that they're up. So don't let them go. Just call them. Keep calling them. Even if they're using a burner number, it's going to clog up their phone. So if too many folk do that, that would be terrible if their phone just couldn't stop ringing. That'd be awful. That would be awful. If folks kept doing that and their phones just stayed lit up, boy, that would just be terrible, wouldn't it? That would be awful. Yeah, if they sat up here and did that and the phones are just lighting them up and they can't get their phones to shut off and every time they're trying to use it, oh hell, it's just lighting up. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Oh, that would be awful. I mean, what if they have an important number? What if they have an important phone call coming in and they can't do it because folks are lighting them up? That would just be bad news. Hate to be them. That would just be bad news for them, wouldn't it? Oh man, sucks to be them. But definitely don't leave them in need. Don't leave them in need. Let them know we looking out for them. Let them know we gonna look out for them. It's a holiday weekend. We ain't gonna leave you in the lurch. Hey, Lizzo, the Lizzo caller who called earlier here, who's upset because the black men are ignoring her. Brothers, just let her know if you can find her information. Let her know. It's like, hey, bigums, big girls need some hate too. Not no love, baby. You need some hate too. We trying to bring you back to life. We're trying to bring you back to reality. So big girls need some hate too. Don't get mad. Don't get mad. Or maybe do get mad. Maybe if you do get angry, that'll burn some calories at least. If you get angry enough, that'll get your metabolism up somewhat. That's about as close to exercise as you're going to get. I have a husband. Who gonna marry you? Better question. Who gonna feed you? Yeah, I'm asking irrelevant questions. Forget who gonna marry her. Who gonna feed her? Whose paper is that straight? Who's got that much disposable income that he can sit up here and roll her up to the trough? Who's got that? Come on now, you ain't fooling us. Call him area code 505. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, caller from area code 505 has been abducted. Caller from area code 334. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Ray from Eufaula, Alabama. I'm from this the heart of Dixie, the state of Alabama. It's a lot of black people. They scared of reparations. When you bring it up to the older, like you always say, these old Negroes, they get scared and cowered off and run into their little hole. And another thing too, Mr. Jason, ever since you called out that white supremacist woman, all these trolls have been popping up on your timeline. I've been seeing too, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
When you hit them where they hurt, brother, they're gonna squeal. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, folks. When you hit them where they hurt, they're gonna squeal. They gonna squeal, they gonna scream. They're gonna pick up the phone lines and just say crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, they're hurting, man. You done put a hurting on them. They ain't forgot about that. They can't even sit down. It's like having industrial strength hemorrhoids. Can't sit down straight. Everything is hurting. It's like sitting on a triangle. It's like, oh hell, this is gonna be uncomfortable. There is no good way to do this. It's like trying to sit on a giant triangle. How the hell you do this? There's nothing comfortable about this. Literally any other shape you could have chosen would have been better than this. Well, don't worry. We're gonna give them a whole lot more to be upset over. Don't you worry about that. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's program. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo, Ms. Dawson, Lakeith, Mr. Saunders, and everyone else who has supported tonight's program. We appreciate that. Jay Freeman Blackman there in the Super Chat. I see you there, brother. Like I say, give her a call. We'll brighten up her weekend. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. The Black Channel driving trolls crazy since 2009. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. Thank you for joining in live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.